Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by Beth and Peter and David. We do have a website, unfilteredvetdiscussions.com. On the website are pretty little icons that go to our social media platforms and to our podcast platforms. We'd like you to click, like, join, comment. We'd love to hear from you. So please do, while you're listening to this, just mosey on over there and join us. Today's conversation is less is not more.
Hmm.
Because we've heard less is more comment, but please insert the not. Less is not more with consolidation in the veterinary space. And we've just had a new recent consolidation that has come on board, and we just want to discuss it for a few minutes. So thank you for joining us. Who wants to give the background? I'm sure many people have read, but we should, for in case the one person in the middle of Alaska who hasn't heard about this. What is the new major consolidation?
Well, as always, the news comes out during the major large meetings.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so while some of us were basking in the smoke and haze of Las Vegas during the recently completed Viticus Group WVC, a major press release came out announcing the merger of MWI Animal Health and Covetrus, two of the largest distributors of veterinary supplies in the country, probably in the world,
Yeah.
and thus um, potentially decreasing the number of options that veterinary practices might have when it comes down to the distribution of the drugs and supplies.
Mhm.
And I think those of us who have seen this in other industries as well as in the veterinary profession begin to wonder what are the trickle down consequences? What's the trickle down economics into Beth's practice or the hospitals that David um, services? Because when there's less choices or fewer choices, um, that generally means prices go up, not down.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Mhm. And
Now, granted,
selection can go down
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
and,
yeah,
and granted, this is still pending FCC approval, which, my perspective, I hope it's not, because I think it's just one step too far in the consolidation side of vendors. It's already been huge with vendors acquiring the software for practice management, and vendors now, and the labs having the lab equipment and the service maintenance agreements and the consolidation. It's just becoming a little too much. At the flip side, does it crack the door for maybe, and I have many clients that utilize and really like some of the smaller ones, like Penn Vet, Miller Vet, and they do a very good job. But that also depends on what the manufacturers themselves are willing to do. And if they give the 600-pound gorilla the better pricing, that works out, pulls out the folks trying to compete on the side, no different than the veterinary practice trying to compete with Chewy and PetMed, et cetera. So my perspective overall is this is not a good thing. And I don't know how they can spin it such that it is a good thing. Uh, but we'll see.
yeah. I definitely worry about the impacts to like the little guy, like the small practices like myself that utilize vendors like that, then, the trickle down of like having less options or being kind of pigeonholed into having to use, there's just one less option there so they can control pricing more. That's one of my biggest concerns is what's that going to affect the prices of the medications and the vaccines and the drugs and things that I'm looking to stock on my shelf if, they have so much buying power and so much of the market sort of cornered under one umbrella company. Definitely concerns of what that's going to look like on the day to day and how that's going to affect a lot of those prices.
Just
Well, and then you add in the corporate side because those vendors and the
Yeah.
labs are already providing
mhm,
reduced prices, special pricing to the corporate groups and not to the private practitioner. And then you have the vendor suppliers doing that as well. That is kind of a double whammy because you even lost more price opportunity or the ability to control um, and shop. There's just, you can't pit them against each other when on the backside they're all one and the same.
Right.
what about data? Do
What about
people,
data?
it used to be a really big concern of who owns and manages your data, right? And I would still argue that should be maybe a consideration in the business that you use because, Beth, whoever you're using to provide all your needs for the hospital now knows a lot about you. And what do they do about that information?
Yeah.
I mean, so it isn't just I'm writing a check for X dollars for Y product. It's also then the unseen costs that are in there as well. What are those and what is every individual willing to provide or not provide or live with, right?
Yeah.
Well, data is the new gold, for lack of a better way to put it. Um, and I can remember when VetSource first was released, and they were looking to build a a large number of hospitals that they could aggregate and share data with and everything else, and everybody was afraid of sharing that data. Um, but now there are more and more data aggregators out there
Mhm.
that somehow, through APIs, access the back end of many of our PIMs, including the server based, not just the cloud based. And so, how safe is data? Oh, and by the way, there is a large veterinary product distributor, excuse me, animal product distributor that is opening veterinary hospitals that is in the data mining business as well. And my opinion is they're opening veterinary hospitals not so much for the real benefit of pets and pet owners in the veterinary side of things, but to gather more data and to build a larger source for shipping tchotchkes. So data really is an important
Yeah.
component of it as well.
Mhm. And nobody talks about it.
Mm.
Everyone stays on their little island. And I'm running my business, you're running yours, not looking at the aggregated data behind that scenes. And also just from a perspective of day-to-day practice operation, because I work with practices and their bookkeeping,
Mhm.
and I see an impact in this consolidation as far as the quality of your books. In the reference lab, you get your reference lab invoice and it has, yes, the rotors and reagents that you ordered and the reference lab and the service maintenance agreements, which really, and now practice management software. And a lot of bookkeepers just dump that in lab. And so it doesn't go into computer or in-house lab, reference lab compiles, and suddenly your percent of income or percent of revenue for lab is a lot higher, but that's because there's stuff in there that maybe shouldn't be, which makes it harder to diagnose your practice's financial health and trends. Or you have to teach your bookkeeper, which you can do, but now the bookkeeper needs more time and a calculator to split those out before putting them into QuickBooks. And as all that comes together, somebody's got to do more work in order to have a good P&L for management purposes. So it's just one more slippery slope impacting the practice, and which makes it harder than if your practice is not financially healthy, it makes it harder to diagnose why is it not financially healthy. The old
Mhm.
GIGO, right? GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If your books are not worth anything, it's harder to use it. And the old adage, you can't manage what you don't measure. Well, if your measurements are not very refined, your management goes downhill for sure.
Well, I mean, David, I don't know how many people listen to this podcast and how many people you touch, but you know as well
We
as I
met
do.
one. There is at least one.
Yeah.
There is.
There is.
But there are so many veterinary hospitals that use ineffective profit and loss statements and have PIMs where everything is all over the place in terms of categorization. And so they're Mr. Magoo when they're driving. For those of you who are young,
Google it. Google Mr. Magoo.
Mr.
Google
Magoo.
Mr.
They're fun to
Magoo
watch.
and watch some of the cartoons. But there are way too many Dr. Mr. Magoos out there who are driving their practices with blinders on and can't see, and their glasses are foggy. And they come to you wanting to sell, and really what they have is nothing to sell but tangible assets and people who are employed by them on oxygen and defibrillators.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
veterinarians are really good at being veterinarians, right? But they're kind of shit
100%.
at being business people for like
Well,
Oh,
as
yeah.
a general summary. I feel like a lot of veterinarians are not very good business people because the characteristics of a person that makes you a good business person are not the same characteristics of a person that makes you a good veterinarian. So it's really hard to bridge that gap. Like I even know for myself, like I feel like I'm reasonably good in both areas, and it is a struggle
Yeah.
because they're just very different priorities when you are trying to focus on those two wildly different things, which makes it really hard to do both well.
And to be fair, most of the folks with whom we work, my team and I, they know it. They
Yeah.
admit,
Yes.
and they're there. They want to learn, and that's what we love doing is the teaching and helping take them from here up to here during the valuation process, and not just be the Oz behind the curtain saying your value is this. No, we're going to guide
You
and
should
teach
do that
through
when you
that.
present it, though.
Yeah,
That would
like
be
That
with the
funny.
should
bean track
100%.
too,
The all-powerful
right?
Oz.
let's let's
That
let's
would
do
be fun.
let's do some teaching though. But what right now, okay? Why
Okay.
are we even talking about MWI and Covetrus as a concern? Because of the probably the largest bucket from the expense side of things and a significant component of income, which is your cost of goods, also
Yeah,
known as cost of professional
that's
services.
the concern.
And so
Yeah.
if you don't keep an eye on or understand what your cost of goods are, from everything from a freaking cotton ball to a rattlesnake in vaccination or injection, then you are not paying attention to a very large source that impacts your profitability. David, Beth, correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
and uh,
Yeah.
a lot of folks say your wages are your largest expense. And and I don't like that because I think you have to split your professional staff, everything veterinary from everything non-veterinary, and look at them and manage them separately. When that leaves your inventory as your number one expense category. And far and away, based on our data and the Valuation Council data, the old practice productivity pulse points data, the NCVEI data going back a few years for some of us, all of that shows that your cost of goods sold or cost of professional services far and away is your biggest management item because it's your biggest expense category and it's the number one financial disease that plagues most practices is inventory management. You know, you're looking at 25 to 30% of your revenues. And now with consolidation on the folks that are giving you those supplies, you have less ability to impact or edit, change, manage your inventory because the supply side just got cranked on. You have fewer choices.
So,
And even using the tools like VetCove and other buying groups, their ability to help you help yourself now gets a little hamstrung as well.
So use numbers if possible. For example, like if you're saying 25 to 30% of revenue is going to your gross products good, and let's say now because of this merger, the cost of your goods now goes up 2 to 5%, just pulling numbers out of thin air, right? What does that do for the bottom line for a lot of practices?
Yeah, none of your other expenses are changing. So you either, to stay even, you either have to increase your fees, and many of those items are shoppable items, which means it's hard to increase your fees. You have to decrease your margins, or you have to increase your other service fees to make up that difference in order to stay the same, or, which will happen to most practices, I think, the difference comes out of your bottom.
Right.
And when your
Yeah.
bottom's thin, there may not be a lot of wiggle room.
Well, thank you for noticing my bottom is thin because we could do no, we won't go to the conversation we had in
Yeah, VMX.
Yeah, BMX. Yeah, that was a good one
Lift and
though.
separate.
Yeah,
Where's
Lift
Jenny
is-
when we need her?
right, exactly.
Oh, God.
Oh, for those of you who weren't, but no, let's not go
It's
there.
an
Yeah.
inside joke. It's an
You're absolutely correct, David, because if Kelly's comment is correct, if there's a 2 to 3% increase in your cost of goods
Mhm.
because of lack of competition, then most practices it's going to just strictly go down to the bottom line because the other word that came out of both meetings is affordability. And so I think people are becoming more sensitized to fee increases, even if it
Us.
means that their profitability gets impacted. So we're in this vicious
Yeah.
cycle right now. Um, but it's interesting. We didn't talk about this previously, but the news that came out in Orlando that didn't get quite as much airtime was vetgetrx.com. Beth, did you even hear about that?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh,
Okay, so this is a co-op of Covetrus, Midwest, MWI, Patterson, Animalytics, DVM Metrics to create a competitive pricing tool on products. So instead of Vet Cove, which does a great job of setting up competitive pricing so people can get the best price,
And is independent.
Yeah, I was
these
just
right,
gonna
because
say,
this
but this
sounds
would be a competitive pricing tool that is controlled by the people
By the people
controlling the
that are selling you.
prices.
that
Yeah.
sounds like
right.
a monopoly to
That
me.
doesn't sound ideal.
No, it's a
Folks, pull back the
monopoly.
curtain.
What the
Yes.
F? No, I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah. So this is again the inmates running the asylum.
Yeah.
Uh,
That
Yeah,
your asylum, Beth, is being run by by the
Frick.
in
I want to run my own asylum. Thank you very much.
and
that'd be more
David was
fun.
talking about the lab invoicing coming out. And I know there are some companies that are doing this, but what we're going to have to start to do is run our invoices through AI and have them broken out and then give us a report that says this goes into each of these different categories. And we
And
really
that,
need to do
yeah.
that with our invoices that are coming from our distributors because I remember after I sold my practice, I would have to go through each invoice that I got from my distributor and give a code to every line item as to which of the chart of accounts it went to, injectables or fluids or IV catheters. So more and more of this is going to become necessary if we're truly going to manage to the same language, because I think it goes
Yeah.
back to the fact that veterinary medicine, veterinary practices, companion animals specifically, are the freaking United Nations with 212 different languages being spoken and not a lot of translators out there to bring it to a common language.
And do use AI though, Peter. I think that's a good point. Like I see AI as
Yeah.
an executive assistant for a lot of businesses. This is a good executive assistant place where it can save your business time of any business. If you have a complicated, like you said, inventory process with manifests that are coming and you're watching it, AI can help you manage it so you're not just sitting there with a bottle of wine trying to figure out your inventory control at night when you're utterly exhausted. Like that's a great tool and it can do it in 30 seconds probably,
Yeah,
regardless
you
of what
could,
AI you choose.
You could then on a monthly basis, and your bookkeeper, no different than putting in the deposits, and then at the end of the month, revenue by category, splitting out those deposits into subclasses appropriately. You could get a monthly report from your vendor on a spreadsheet, drop that in your personal, not the public connected to the internet, but your personal one, so that the AI is not sharing that data. But the AI could then break that into subcategories that the bookkeeper then just once a month, saving time, could break out some of those. I like that idea a lot.
Mhm.
The bottom line is that I have not seen a situation where less competition is better for the ultimate stakeholders.
Yeah.
And we see this in airline industry, we see this in restaurant industry, we've seen it in pharmacy, human pharmacy, fewer
Mhm.
choices for
Yeah.
pharmacy, optometrics. Oh, veterinary medicine as well. And so it does have concerns that, and it goes to the fact that how much attention are people actually paying to the news, the veterinary specific news? I don't care about the other news, but the veterinary specific news, because how many times, David or Beth or Kelly, do people come to you and say, oh, I wasn't even aware of that?
All
Yeah.
the time.
There's an awareness issue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if we do nothing else but use this podcast to make people aware of things that they need to be aware of and
Mhm.
poke the bear every once in a while to say, WTF, which is not a
Yeah.
radio station in Minneapolis, but
Nope.
it sure as hell could be.
It could be.
It
Yes.
could
Yes,
be.
it could be.
And
And I
it's
live
not
here. So
it's
yes.
not when Alda talks football, which is Sirius XM 157, one of my channels here
Right.
Uh-uh.
But
with
yeah,
Jason
I mean,
Davis and Eric Winalda.
knowledge is
Little
power.
plug.
So Google does Google Alerts. I don't know if anybody listening knows this. It's google.com/alerts. And
Yeah,
you can go
I
there
use those.
and it's free. And you can put in a word like covetrus, and it will send you whatever cadence you want, hourly, daily, weekly, information about whatever topic you're interested in. So I would
Yeah,
recommend that to stay on top of the news.
Mm.
Hey,
Agree.
Kelly, here we are talking about consolidation and fewer options. What about the consolidation in the marketing world,
Oh God.
your marketing world specifically?
In the veterinary space in the marketing world, there's been a lot of consolidation lately, and they tend to be purchased by private equity. There's very few of us that are still independently owned.
Hmm.
We're out there, and what we're noticing is the people who were with an independent marketing company that was purchased, they're really kind of bummed out because the customer service really goes downhill or is non-existent, or they're just not getting their marketing updated the way they need it. And those are the common complaints that we're hearing when people come and are like trying to find
Wow.
a better solution for their business. So I don't know why private equity strips out customer service and customer experience as soon as they purchase the marketing agencies, but they do. And usually
Interesting.
private equity, sort of like MWI was purchased by private equity, if I'm remembering correctly. They have a runway of about 7 years where they purchase a company and then they want to turn it around and flip it and sell it and make money on that flip from, I bought it for 100, I sold it for 200 type of conversations. And then also in the marketing space, they do a lot of consolidation, trying to say, come here and you can get all these services in underneath one brand name, because the private equity has purchased like 5 or 6 sort of marketing type of companies and lumped them together, which sort of kind of half-ass works.
So, since Kelly doesn't seem to want to talk about the specific companies, I will.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Um, there have been a merger of 3 large marketing firms under one banner. ProSites,
Mm-hmm.
in the not too distant past, purchased LifeLearn, which is a Canadian-based
Yeah.
company, and more recently, at the end of last year, purchased Genius Vets.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that connection. Yep, but
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
So this private equity owned and backed ProSites has now expanded their portfolio of marketing companies to shrink the number of choices that consumers have. And Genius Vets has a marketing arm focused on websites and other things, and
Yep.
LifeLearn has a marketing arm. ProSites is marketing arm. So those are Kelly's competition in many ways. Um, and so it's again fewer choices. And when you also have the opportunity then to compete financially by dropping prices because you have a greater
Volume.
banking
Yeah.
behind you as well. So it becomes a little bit unfair for Kelly, who's a mom and pop, really a mom, no pop
Right.
situation, to try to compete with, nine figures of investment.
And
Yeah.
you also miss others. There are only three. There's others that are iMatrix, Pet
Is
Desk.
iMatrix under that banner as well?
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
wow.
Not pro sites, but they're owned by
Okay.
private equity. Pet Desk, bought a marketing company, and that's all. Pet Desk is all private equity now as well. So there's a couple of more. Hmm.
Wow.
So we got 75% of the veterinary hospitals thereabouts that are independently owned, pretending to be an ostrich while all of this stuff goes on around them.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that they stop being an ostrich and, if I may quote Peter Finch, get mad as hell and do something about it.
Yeah, each person matters. Every
Mhm.
single one of us are spending our dollars somewhere.
Mhm.
Choose wisely. That
Yeah.
match what you personally believe in,
Yeah.
because I was just talking to somebody else before this. I said, I believe in small independent businesses so much that I started a farmer's market in my town. Why? Because there's no retail space in our town for small businesses. But I put what I believed in place. I believe in veterinary marketplace so much that we listen and we hear and we help empower the veterinary space. Like you're our client, so we're going to make you shine, right? Like, how do we make that happen to you versus just give you a subscription basis and we'll show up once in a while, right? Now that you got me started, Peter. So, what do you believe in, right? What makes you passionate? Go do something. Just don't be a victim. Just
Yeah. Walk the talk.
I
walk,
think being an
talk.
informed consumer is probably one of the biggest takeaways, I would say, from this. Like, you have to educate yourself on what's going on in the pharmaceutical distribution world, what's going on in the marketing world, what's going on in all the different areas of veterinary medicine so that you're spending your dollar where you want to spend your dollar. And if that means
Yeah.
you use one of the really big companies, but make sure that you are leveraging your power because you still have power with them, but you have to make sure that you're leveraging it. You have to be willing to negotiate and you have to educate yourself so you know what your options are. Or if that means you go with someone smaller or someone independently owned because that's what you believe in and where you feel like you want to spend your dollars. But you can only make that decision if you have the information. So I think every veterinarian out there needs to be educating themselves on what's going on.
And that's
Well
a cool
said.
search.
That's a good wrap.
That is a good wrap. And just go to Google, ask who owns this business, right? It will tell you. I do that all the time. No,
That's a great,
excellent
yeah. Who
wrap.
owns this business? Just
Who owns
Google
this
it.
business? And your AI or Google will be like, oh, and then it just blah, 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 and you're like, oh, that's interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's so much further we can go in this, but
Yeah.
um,
Part
I
two.
think part
Perfect.
two.
Yeah.
Until then, we will give you the royal wave of to do. Thank you for watching us get all fired up today. And we will be in email box, podcast, social media, somewhere near you soon. So thank you very much.